This time I call the meeting to order. If you would please rise, I'm going to ask Commissioner Marshall to lead us in the invocation and the pledge.
Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for this meeting, this time that you've given us to represent our constituents. We thank you for all the blessings that you bestowed on us and our families. We pray, Lord, for those who have come to show support and interest in these proceedings. We pray for those who wanted to be here but that could not be here. We thank you, Lord, for all the local leaders, state leaders, and federal leaders that you have blessed us to represent us. We pray that you give them guidance as they continue to represent our local community, state, and federal. We pray for the president. We pray that you give him wisdom in dealings or making decisions upon our country. We pray that you continue to shine on us as a nation. All these blessings we ask in your name, we pray. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners, inside your packets, you'll find your minutes from the work session of May the 21st and the regular session minutes of May the 22nd. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections that needs to be made, I'll entertain a motion to approve those minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the minutes as presented.
Do we have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries and the minutes are approved. Agenda item 5A is our first public hearing item. This is REZ 2018-11. The McMullen property is located on Johnson Road South. The request is from R21 to RA. It has county water and septic. It involves 8.751 acres. Mr. Davenport.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ultimately, the motivation of this request is so that the developer can market these potential lots in a speculative nature. They're currently zoned R21 residential, and as a part of that, they want to go to RA so they can market them as a larger lot. People are allowed to have livestock, etc. So you can see the homework that staff has done, went to the Planning Commission. If you're ready to move forward tonight, then we believe it's ready for your consideration.
Any questions for Mr. Davenport? Okay. Hearing none, we'll move it now to the public participation portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public participation portion of the meeting and turn it over to the commissioners for your consideration.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a motion to approve the request? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 5B is case number REZ 2018-12. This is Stubbs Storage. It would be located at 6125 Union Road. The request is from EA to CG. It would have well and septic. It involves 12.81 acres. Mr. Davenport.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ultimately, this is a request to go from agricultural to commercial zoning. The applicant's main motivation is to develop a mini storage and outdoor storage operation. With that, the only updates we've had significant since yesterday have been those elevations that you were presented, just to give you a better look at what the true intent of the applicant was. Beyond that, I know there have been questions and discussions about this case. We believe it's ready for your consideration. Pending any responses, we'll try to get them all to you tonight, but if not, I know the applicant is here to speak on his behalf, and so beyond updates from him or another side, then I think that's all we have this evening, sir.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Davenport? Okay. Hearing none, we'll open up the public participation portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Mr. Chairman, old habits are hard to break. I almost ask if I might approach the bench. So, my name is Arthur McLean. I am a Lowndes County resident. I'm a Lowndes County property owner. I'm the one that owns the property on the east side of Union Road. It extends down Union Road and then comes back and fronts on a portion of Thompson Road. First of all, let me say that I do not have any personal problem with Mr. Stubbs or Mr. Browning's concerning their project as a project. I do have a very strong opposition, however, to the location where they want to put it. I have, again, there may be, and probably is, a need for something like they are planning. But I do not think that this is the proper area for it to be placed for a number of reasons, and I'd like to speak to those if I might. I have no problem with them wanting to establish some financial security for their families. That is entirely proper. Every person in a family should be interested in making sure that the welfare of the family is taken care of. But I do not think that it should be done under circumstances where it would, in all likelihood, in my opinion, be detrimental to the close-by neighbors and possibly financially detrimental to them in terms of the loss of the value of their property. One of the main points that I think is applicable and which I hope would be considered by the commissioners is that I have always understood that one of the main tenets and one of the primary thoughts in terms of dealing with land use was that you should, whenever possible to do so, avoid spot zoning. This is absolutely spot zoning, in my opinion. Everything all the way around this property where this project is supposed to be placed for perhaps a mile is either residential, agricultural, or religious. There are several churches up on Union Road. There are mostly farms. There are mostly large tracts where people have built their private homes, and they have built their private homes, at least as far as those I know personally, so that they could get away from commercial traffic and have nothing but their neighbors riding up and down the road. So again, I think this certainly goes astray from what should be a primary factor, and that is avoiding spot zoning. Now, I'd like to look just a few minutes at several aspects of the proposal. The proposal is that they will provide storage for residents, including military people. They have a wide area to do that in other places of this county. I have ridden this area on a number of occasions, and I have not seen any great need for storage of RVs or boats. And I have not seen anybody who wouldn't prefer, if they are military, to have a storage facility for whatever they're going to store a whole lot closer than Union Road to Moody Field. Moody, boy, that shows my age, Moody Air Force Base. I think they would a lot rather have something, and there is much land a lot closer to Moody for those people. The people that I am aware of and the people that I know in this area have built very nice homes very close to this proposed project, both on Union Road and certainly on Thompson Road, and then going all the way over to Highway 41. The project says that they want to improve the area by, quote, upgrade to CG. I have not dealt with zoning as much in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years as I did before, but I have yet to see where I thought the aesthetics of an location or its beauty or its desirability as for anything other than employment and work to lower the standards from residential or residential agricultural or light commercial to a general commercial zoning classification. It doesn't happen. I've never seen it happen. It always creates some downgrading of property values. It would certainly downgrade some property values for those who have built houses in that neighborhood. And I would gently suggest to you commissioners that if anybody thinks a storage facility, especially one for boats and RVs, is going to be a beautiful sight to behold, they need to ride by Music Funeral Home. Music Funeral Home is run by Casey Music. The Music family is a very fine family. Casey's grandfather, in fact, started off his funeral career working with my father. The Musics and the McLeans have always gotten along very well. When they started putting up those storage units around Casey, I talked with him. I said, I know what they're doing is legal, but is there anything I can do to try to help you? Because it ain't right as far as your ministry to the people who want to utilize your funeral services. I didn't think it was right then. I don't think it's right now. The Music family does a very good job of ministering and caring for the people who are in grief and who need a comforting atmosphere. I don't think they're going to get a very comforting atmosphere if people are riding in and out of there storing boats and RVs.
Judge,
Yes,
we
sir.
kind of run over your time.
I'm sorry, I
That's
didn't
fine.
realize I had
understand.
some time. Let
I'll
me
give
try.
you one more minute, and then I'll give the opposition the same amount of time.
All right, sir. He says he wants to give an outstanding view of the facility. Again, I've never seen one yet that gives me an outstanding view. I know several people in the area, haven't found anybody who feels there's even a need for this place. And this whole area is not growing commercially and won't unless and until they build an intersection of I-75 out there. So to try to say that this is going to create some wonderful commercial development, in my opinion, is simply not true. Thank you for the extra time, Mr. Chairman. I apologize. I did not realize I had a time limit.
No problem.
Thank you, sir.
Any questions for Judge McLean? Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to this request? All right, hearing none, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please. Please set the clock at about 7 minutes in case you need it.
Yes, sir. My name's Stacy Stubbs. I was born and raised in Lowndes County my whole life. I did buy a piece of property in Brooks County that I moved to, which is 7 miles outside of Hayhire. And can I give you all some photos of a few things?
If you'll give them to Ms. Dukes, she'll get them distributed for you.
But basically, I'm proposing this project will be a great asset to the northern Lowndes County, Hayhire community, which there is 800 plus houses within 2 miles of this project that I'm proposing that's living under covenants. They cannot allowed to put RVs, boats, or anything. There's 800 plus houses within these 2 mile radius. And by saying that, it'll go along with the 80 plus apartments being built on North Union Road in Hayhire. And there's a lot of my personal friends in Hayhire that store their boats in Buddy's lots and such as that I know personally. But, at the same time, this project would be a good noise and visual reduction for the neighboring community of Union Springs. When you pull out the driveway of Union Springs, right now you're seeing a burnt down house and a trashed up lot. That's right out the intersection where it hits Union Road. If you looking straight on, you see an I-75 passing back and forth. So, and I really think, by giving you the drawings and such that we do have and the pictures, it illustrates me landscaping the property, blocking everything off. Everything is completely retained inside this project. There's nothing going to be exposed except for a metal exterior wall, plus the flowers and the landscaping and such. But all the pictures shows some of the businesses that's up and down Union Road. One of them is exactly adjacent to the southern portion of the property, which is across Franks Creek Road. And I'm not trying to throw none of my neighbors under the bus by no means, don't get me wrong, but this is a business, which is south of Franks Creek Road, it's running now. And all the rest of them are business, some's churches. But, so anyhow, the way I was seeing it, it kind of, it goes together on the same side of the road. 90% of them, except for one of those photos, is on the east side. All the rest of them's on the west side. And I'm really proposing, the county is allowing me, or we're trying to allow the 8 acres, not 13 acres. So there's only 8 acres. And 5 acres, the county restricts for mini storages or storages for 5 acres. I'm trying to get 8 just mainly for the maneuvering of the RVs and 50-foot RVs and such as that, getting them in and out and parking them and everything such as that. So, and that's the reason I'm asking for the 8, because I need a little bit more room to be able to be versatile in both ways. Mini storages plus for the apartments and different, the community. There's a lot of the community there that does not have a place to store things. And I mean, our unit, mini storages now are completely booked. They're completely full. And I've talked to numerous developers, and they say it's a great idea. It's a great location for the surrounding communities. And and other than that, I really like the opportunity to just like Mr. McLeod said, to be able to build me some retirement and look for myself, my family and such as that. And this property is affordable next to something that's already commercialized in northern Lowndes County, North Valdosta Road areas. And other than that, that's all I need to say.
Any questions for Mr. Stubbs?
Yes, when did you purchase this property?
I haven't. That's something I did miss. I'm sorry. I'm doing this under continuance of me buying it. I got to have it rezoned. I'm not going to buy the property, and that's something he said to me and Mr. Brown. And me and Mr. Brown is not affiliated, besides I'm buying the property from him in continuance of this is getting rezoned. I've spent a little bit of money through the county trying to get this rezoned, but I'm not neck deep in debt neither. But at the same time, I still would like the opportunity to be able to build the project.
How many units do you project being with this
I'm
project?
projecting right now, I got 200 drawn. I'm projecting maybe to expand to up to at the most 400, plus the outdoor storage. And the outdoor storage is completely under shelter, completely fenced in to where you cannot see it from the outside. And it's all completely gated, computerized gated.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Stubbs.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this request? Okay, hearing none, we'll close the public participation portion of the meeting and turn it back over to the commissioners for your consideration.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, can I ask Jason a couple questions?
Absolutely, sure.
Mr. Davenport, the term was, or the statement was made that this is spot zoning. Could you elaborate on that? Could you give us your opinion on the spot zoning comment?
Yes, sir. So the term that the judge used is one that is very debatable in land use. But ultimately what spot zoning refers to is a district that is isolated and unrelated to other districts. The problem with that, in my opinion, in this case, with all due respect to the judge, is that when you deal with commercial zoning, it's supported by the comprehensive plan. It's mentioned as crossroads commercial because in rural areas, you typically have commercial that is isolated and at the crossroads of intersections, which in staff's opinion is what this is. You have the intersection of 2 collector roads backing up to I-75. So the reason why we put commercial in the comp plan is supported is because there are certain crossroads where we realized that you could have commercial growth happen. Why staff gravitated towards that aspect in this case is because of the shape of the property and the location on I-75. The shape of the property, in our opinion, lends itself to one of 2 other zonings. One is RA for 2.5 acre lots or some type of commercial. Staff really tended to go away from a 1 acre lot because the depth of the property, in our opinion, would put a housing type in the area that we felt like would be detrimental to the other houses. Because the depth of the lot is going to put the rear yard right in I-75. And so we felt like, okay, what can you do with a very small piece of property with a limited amount of space and frontage? And mini storage is something around town that has been successful on very uniquely shaped properties, especially adjacent to arterials or railroad tracks. You typically see them be able to infill there very well. So we had a case a few years ago that wanted to go a little farther than our plans allowed, which was manufacturing, which we denied and the commission denied. But when he came back and said, well, what about a mini storage operation? We began to entertain, could that work? So spot zoning, in our opinion, was considered, has been considered. It is absolutely a reasonable, debatable point, but staff got over that hump because of the support in the comprehensive plan and the intersection of two collector roads right on this property.
So the GLPC recommendation with the two conditions, those conditions, one was related to buffer requirements, correct?
Yes, sir. One to buffer and one to uses.
So the buffer, how comfortable do you feel with the buffer requirement as far as the reduction in setbacks? Would it be fair to say that some of that is to protect the natural vegetation that's there and help shield this from?
Yes, sir, it is. I mean, the buffer in our regard was, number one, so that the many thousands of people that drive past this property on I-75 aren't looking at the back of a metal building for 1,000 feet. The other one was to take into consideration those existing residences that are around this property and developing, so that they also had some aesthetic appearance as well beyond a building next to a road. We just felt like this property was capable of being protected with that existing vegetation, or if for some reason due to building constraints had to do that, then they would go back and replant it. And we had that concerns from the very beginning, and Mr. Stubbs has indicated he would be willing to do that, even at own, some cost to himself because of the way the property lays out.
Mr. Chairman, I can really see this case both ways, and I feel like that when I'm in this situation, and this being the area that I represent, I feel like that I have to listen closely to what the property owner and their representatives want to do. So with that, I'll make a motion that we approve with the conditions set forth by the GLPC on option number 2.
So that is option number 2, both conditions.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion to approve with conditions 1 and 2. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll vote by show of hands. All in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay, 3-2, motion carries. Okay, agenda item number 6A for your consideration is the Motorola support agreement. Mr. Bayshore.
Commissioners, this is the annual renewal for our Motorola software. This supports the Sheriff's Department and the jail, which covers OffenderTrack, NetRMS, Oracle, and 2 licenses for PMDC.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Bayshore? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a motion to approve? Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6B is the Office of the Governor's Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. The Accountability Court in Lowndes County is the DUI court, requested from state court. At the work session yesterday morning, you heard from Judge Golden in regards to this request. If there are no questions, then I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve this Lowndes County DUI court grant up to the amount of $40,319.
Okay,
or so amount that's used, because it's my understanding that they may receive something to offset this particular grant.
Would you consider amending your motion that would add in the language that if they are approved and do receive the grant that they're requesting, then the amount would be reduced accordingly?
So moved.
We have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6C is the service contract for the Lcboc system. As again, Mr. Weeks could not be with us tonight, but you heard his presentation at the work session. Unless you have any questions, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve the request. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6D is the request for an additional deputy coroner. This is from Mr. Fiveash. Mr. Fiveash is with us. If you have any questions for him, this item, as you recall, was presented and was tabled at our last meeting, and so it's back on the agenda now. So if there are no questions for Coroner Fiveash, then I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the hiring of a deputy coroner.
Well, that's actually the appointment.
Appointment, excuse me.
What you're doing as a commission is approving the request for the coroner to appoint a second
Correct.
deputy coroner.
Correct. Thank you.
So do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign.
Aye.
You're opposed? Okay, so it's 3-2. Motion carries. Agenda item 6E is the Solicitor General's VOCA supplemental grant application. Again, Mr. Cabral was at the work session, made the presentation. Unless there's any questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the Solicitor General's vocal supplemental grant application.
We have a motion to approve the grant application. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6F is the GDOT option for right-of-way at exit 11. Mr. Fletcher?
Yes, sir. As we discussed yesterday, this is an option for the Georgia Department of Transportation to be able to purchase a portion of a piece of property that Lowndes County owns at the southwest corner of exit 11. And again, this is 0.13 acres or 541 square feet.
Any questions from Mr. Fletcher? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we authorize you, the chairman, to sign the option of the right-of-way.
Okay, I have a motion to authorize the chairman to sign the option. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6G is a beer, wine, and liquor license. They're doing business as the Liquor King. It's located at 4960 Bemis Road. Ms. Black?
Yes, sir. This is for the sale of beer, wine, and liquor for consumption off-premise, and this is a new establishment.
Any questions for Ms. Black? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we approve the beer, wine, and liquor license.
We have a motion to approve the beer, wine, and liquor license for 4960 Bemis Road, doing business as Liquor King. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6H is the CSS Probation Tracking System Agreement. Ms. Roundtree with us? Come forward, please. Okay. Good evening.
What you have presented in front of you is the CSS contract. This is the software that the probation department will be using. This one we will be using at least probably for 6 months to a year, depending on our timeline with trying to find a permanent software solution.
Any questions for Ms. Roundtree? Okay, thank you, Ms. Roundtree.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve and authorize the chairman to sign the attached professional services agreement.
We have a motion to approve the contract for the software and authorize the chairman to sign the agreement. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7A is a bid for fire engine number 10's equipment. Ms. Black?
Yes, sir, we solicited bids for the purchase of various equipment that's needed to outfit a new fire engine. The items included are on the attached sheet. This is a one-time purchase and everything will come from a single vendor. We received 2 bids that met specifications. The first was from Lcboc in the amount of $43,119.59 and Municipal Emergency Services $48,909.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Black? Okay. If there's none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we award the bid to Lcboc.
We have a motion to award the bid to Lcboc. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 8, County Manager report. Mr. Pritchard.
No report tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Pritchard. Do we have any citizens wishing to be heard, Ms. Dukes? No citizens wishing to be heard.
I move we adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.